Silvers, the Bobby Clarks are hard to find, and a good comedian is still harder to find. Well, our guest today has a triple talent. She's a singing, dancing comedian who follows in the footsteps of the great comedians like Fanny Brice and Beatrice Lillie. And her performance in the current hit review Showgirl could be described as, well, a zesty, exhilarating tour de force, which gives evidence that she is one of the cleverest comedians in the American musical theater today. And I'd like you to meet her. The critics' darling, and our darling, too, Miss Carol Channing. Here she is. Hi.
Hi. Thank you. What a lovely...
Well, I think we're in orbit, are we?
My, you're darling, for heaven's sake.
I feel waves of communication already.
Oh, do you really?
Yes.
Isn't that fortunate to be a singing, dancing, acting comedian?
Yes.
It means you can embrace so many facets in the theater, you know, Jim, instead of just one. That's most important over a lifetime.
Well, tell us about the lifetime then. You know, most actresses, when they consider getting into the Broadway stage, think in terms of a romantic, dramatic role. But you selected the comedy phase of the stage. Why?
You know, I don't know why I never had any desire to do anything but comedy. I've done other things, like at Bennington. I remember doing St. Joan, and it wasn't so funny. I mean, but I always wanted to do comedy since the 4th grade, because in the 4th grade in school, someone nominated me for secretary, and the first thing that happened was I began doing the principal, telling them to vote for Carol, and then Gracie Allen telling them to go to the polls and vote for Carol. At the time, you know, it was Mae West, Stephen Fetchit, and all those people. So I would, all these people, and the first laugh I heard, I thought, oh, this is for me. I love this, you know. And I thought, well, what I lie in bed at night and giggle about and can't contain myself about, that the teacher said to the class, like our social science teacher, Miss Weaver, would say, children, never again do I want to hear all this noise. And I think, oh, how funny she is and everything, you know. And then who are you over at the pencil sharpener all the time over at the pencil sharpener? And I thought, oh, she's hilarious. And I'd laugh, and then I found out that other people thought it was funny, too, my fellow students. Well, this is the most remarkable feeling of communication, to have someone laugh at the same things you're laughing at. You find out you're a part of the whole human race. It's the most wonderful feeling.
Well, what professional experience, then, did you go out and garner?
Well, then I just kept on doing shows in school, and I must tell you that that's the last chance you have to be a failure. I mean, nobody can fire you. You've got to go on in school. So as long as you keep your studies up and you get up at assemblies and do anything at all, if you have any ambitions in that direction, I've broken in practically this whole show from the 4th grade on.
Have you really?
Yes, and I've learned things, and there are things I'll never do again, and I hope nobody else remembers, and all that. But it's wonderful in school to be able to do it. And I remember my dramatic teacher, Mr. Pollan, he said, Carol, we always do a heavy dramatic show, now that you speak of it, Jim, at the end of the term, and now you're graduating from high school, and so we're going to do a review for you. We're going to have a comedy review, and I got to just do everything. I did all the faculty and all the principals and the whole Board of Education.
They haven't gotten over it yet, haven't they?
Well, I won the drama medal for it, you see, instead of the potion scene from Romeo and Juliet, which I did. We all have to go through that, like basic ballet training, you know. And but I knew that that wasn't the wonderful feeling of communicating for me. Now, for Judith Anderson, I'm sure she feels a much deeper communication doing Lady Macbeth, you know. But it's all a matter of the individual. Now, at Bennington, yes.
Sue?
You ballet, when did you become interested in dancing?
Oh, always. I didn't like piano, and my parents... and everybody's got to study piano, you know that. So my parents, I'm so grateful to them, because they said, then what do you want? And I said, I always wanted to study dancing. So I went down and studied ballet training. To this day, I have the strangest looking feet that anyone ever saw. They're just mangled from the time I was up on toes from the 4th grade on, you know. But I got off piano and I got to dance. So these bar exercises, I trained for them. But it's odd, you have it all your life, like roller skating. It comes back to you. Anything in a musical that you want to express or you want to say, It's at your command. My body is at my command like a musical instrument to say an idea. If I want to say, this is a darn fine funeral, and this is the happy, happy Rodgers and Hammerstein girl, from here, from the feet on up, I can do her, and she's at my command. And I'm so grateful for that, even if I had bleeding toes all my life. And I remember studying after school every day and coming home, and now I see some of those pictures, the class pictures, and I looked kind of like I was studying ballet. But it was worth it. It was worth it.
Well, Carol, your big break came in Lendonier.
Yes.
Right? And there were some marvelous spoofs in there of the 1920s. Now,
Yes.
what makes the 20s such a rich area for spoofing and satire?
Jim, I think that's a wonderful question. I'll tell you why. It's very difficult to laugh at something we are going through at the moment. That's why, to me, comedy is sanity, the highest kind of sanity you can get to. It means we must be where God is, you know, that we can get out of our trouble, and you cannot satirize what we're going through right now. You must satirize a bygone era. It's the 20s is a wonderful era, but any era that's bygone is funny, because we're no longer in the middle of the pickle we were in at the time, you know. So as soon as you can get away and laugh at any situation, if you're furious at somebody and you find that you can laugh at them, then you know your problem is halfway licked, because you see them sanely and you've stopped being involved in the situation. You're now where it's where you can deal with it without emotion, without the human petty things that just mess it up all the more.
Who supplied the material for that show?
Oh, that was Charles Gaynor. But he was so right. He was the first man to really revive the 20s. And he was so right. Deal with a bygone era. Deal with something. I notice often with the Palace number that we have, some people take it for real because we're still doing it. We're still singing those great big songs, and we're still crying our heart out and saying, "Oh, please," or you know, and some people, it takes just a step further to get away from it and say, "Oh, how funny! We're going through an era."
Well, then came another show in the 20s, but it was a book show, 1949, and Gentlemen
Yes.
Prefer Blondes.
I have to tell you, my dear Charlie Gaynor wrote my first decent part, Lendonier, and it was a review. And he was the first. I tried in New York to get a job. Now, don't let me get off the track, Jim.
All right,
Am I
no,
off the
go
track?
ahead, go ahead. Well,
Oh.
it's Gentlemen Prefer Blondes now. I
Oliver
wanted to try.
Smith
Yes.
was co-producer on that with Herman Levin, and he dragged Anita Luce in, the authoress, who wrote the original Gentlemen Prefer Blondes, and she wrote this too, and he brought her in and said, "Look at this girl doing the 20s in Charlie Gaynor's review." And she said, "That's my Lorelei, I want her." Well, Lorelei was supposed to be 5 feet 2 eyes of blue, and she was the cutest little, tiniest, weensy little flapper, and oh, such a girl with the boys and all that. Well, you know, it's really true, that Stanislavski method. If you believe you're little, if you honestly believe from head to toe that you are whistle bait, you can be. It's all mental. I remember that people say, "Didn't you have a trouble at school dances being taller than the boys?" I don't remember it. I just imagined I was smaller and went happily on. And the boys didn't know I was taller than they were. They believed me.
Now you're back in a review again.
Yes.
Showgirl.
Well, it's the same man, Charlie Gaynor.
Right.
Thank you. You keep me on the track.
I tried to. You want to set the scene, the kind of bright show it is, by having Robert Hunter play the overture for Showgirl?
Wonderful.
for
I
us?
bet you don't
do
even
that
know
for
what a
us?
review is. You know, I grew up with reviews like A Thousand's Cheer,
Yes.
or the Ziegfeld Follies. They would travel to San Francisco, or even the little shows and Nikita Balyev's Chauve-souris and all that. That was a review. Well, there was an era when reviews were at their height. So I thought, this is the end. That's why I'm so... of course, a review is the same technique as a book show. Exactly. So all you have to do is open up and embrace all facets of anything. It's just a mental block that you can create for yourself. But a review, to me, many people your age don't know what one is. A review is not just a mishmash. You don't just throw any old thing together and make it an act. Then it's just an act. But a review has a central theme. Like A Thousand's Cheer, the famous one of its time, was Moss Hart did that, by the way. Oh. But anyway, because he's still at it, isn't he? But the thing is, it had a theme of being newspaper headlines, and all the scenery was, now the headline, Joan Crawford and Doug Fairbanks divorce. Well, you can imagine how far back that was. But anyway, they divorced, and then they do the scene, but it was always the newspaper headlines. That's why it was called A Thousand Cheer. Our review has a theme. Charlie Gaynor told me way back in Lindoneer, I am going someday, when we were all 18 unknown people tumbling on stage and we had equal parts, he came to me and said, Carol, someday I'm going to write a show just for you, which to me meant everything at the time. It meant he approved of everything I was doing in Lindoneer and everything.
Beautiful.
Yes, and he did. He finally wrote it, and it turned out to be this showgirl that we're doing.
You know what we're going to do? We're not going to do the overture, Robert. When we go on to Carol's number,
I
instead...
talked too long.
No, what you say is so
Robert
interesting.
loves his overtures.
We'll let him play it at the end of the session.
Oh,
Now,
good.
Is there a song in Showgirl that kind of sets the theme?
Yes. Actually, the quickest way to